Yes, Mum.
I need to speak with Michael.
Captain, I have Bella Brown on the line.
Take a message?
She wishes to speak to you personally.
Alright, put her on screen.
Michael,
Bella, what can I do for you?
I've been tasked to take in some of the displaced and will need beds.
Alright, we'll be there as soon as we can.
Sounds good. See you then. And Michael, you might want to bring your friend. We're gonna need his special skill set.
I'll let him know you're asking for him.
Miss Brown, awaiting location and further instructions.
I'm sending you the location now.
Decoding transmission. Location acquired.
Nobody's gonna have a bed until we get finished, and we can't get finished unless we get started. Can't get started unless we crack this egg wide open. When dealing with any assembly kit, regardless of the product that you're putting together, it's a good idea to remove all of the pieces from their packaging and lay them out in a way that you can see all of the contents. It'll be easier to find any factory defects or damage that way, and easier to do an inventory.
Performing an inventory will allow you to know if any parts are missing. Check off every item in the parts list as you find them. It would be unfortunate to find out that you have to halt progress due to the lack of components during assembly. If you've noticed any components missing, please contact the manufacturer or retailer for a solution.
After you've completed inventory, you're going to want to clear the space of all debris from the packaging, and after each step that you've completed, you're also going to want to make sure that you have a clear area to be able to complete any assembly steps in the process.
Luckily, they give you the tools that put it together.
Locate and lay out all the pieces that you'll need for each step, including the screws that you'll be using to fasten everything together. That way you're not fumbling through the whole step trying to get everything taken care of.
There are two options available while assembling this bunk bed kit. You should decide if you need the ladder on the left side or the right side. Once that is determined, step 1 is assembling the ladder side, starting with the ladder itself.
When you're putting the ladder together, make sure all 8 screws are in hand tight before tightening them up with the tool.
As with any bunk bed design, the ladder should be the only ingress and egress for the top bunk, for safety purposes. No more than one person should be allowed on the top bunk at any given time. Also, small children should not be allowed access. The use of a nightlight, attached to the ladder side, that can be controlled by the occupant of the top bunk, can also prove useful when other sources of illumination are out of reach, minimizing the chances of injury while descending the ladder.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. Sounds like you're thinking on your feet.
Even though I have a fall, it is not encased in a physical shell. In turn, it does not allow me the luxury of feet, Captain.
And it's gone.
My best guess is that ladder is going to go over here. So, we're going to set it right there for now. So what we want to do is we want to get these screws in by hand. Set it this way, or you can set it completely on the ground as well.
It will be easiest to lay the pieces out on the floor and position them where they will be in place in relation to the pieces they will connect to, including the screws and bolts. This will help in determining if you have everything for each step.
This first side consists of the two legs, a bottom rail, a top rail, the ladder, and the footboard.
Once the components are tightened by hand, they can be propped up to get better leverage while tightening with the tool.
So let's lift this up.
The reason I'm designating the piece as the footboard is because chances are you're going to want your feet towards the ladder when you sleep.
A good example of why you keep everything loose until you get all of your screws in. This is binding up a little bit, so keeping the screws loose will help line everything up and keep it from binding so much.
With all the screws tight, this one's done.
With the first side complete, it seems we are making decent progress.
Can I see? No, 1% done.
All I'm going to say to that is,
Alright, that piece is going to go here for now. Then we're going to make this other side.
the second side consists of the two legs, the bottom rail, the top rail, and the headboard. When you're putting the sides together, make sure that you're using all of the appropriate screws, flat washers, and lock washers when you're assembling it.
The second side consists of fewer pieces and will be open in the middle due to the fact that there is no ladder component. This will allow for quicker assembly with less effort. It is still advised to assemble the pieces on the floor and then prop it up to tighten screws.
We'll finish off tightening up the screws and set it off to the side. Looks like we're going to be able to give this bed some shape with the next step.
This step consists of the top and bottom crossbars, as well as the middle support for the bottom bunk, and will give the bed frame its shape, as well as structural stability.
Let's do the top. That way it's completely out of the way and it's being secured as we're trying to do the bottom. The reason I say the top is because then at least you have more control over the structure.
Be sure to use all of the flat washers and lock washers required to connect pieces that are used to secure the structure during each step. The lock washers are present to keep the screws from loosening due to movement.
You're still going to want to hold on to everything right now, just because none of the bolts are tight and it's going to want to sway back and forth and try to get out of your control. As you're putting more bolts in, it'll become more and more stable, even if they are hand tight.
While dealing with multiple components all at once, try to use the workspace to your advantage by leaning the larger components against a wall and using objects to support the smaller pieces while connecting them to the larger components.
I don't have a hold of it anymore. Before I had to have 3 hands holding it in place.
With the 2 rear crossbars in place, their screws can now be tightened.
It says that these little hanger dudes go in right here to hold the middle. Let's do that. Get those guys there. This is the middle bar at the bottom. And this is going to start drawing everything closer. Since these are single bolt connections, you can tighten them up immediately without having to worry about lining anything up, because there's nothing else to line up. Now we put these other 2 frame pieces in, one at the bottom here, and one at the top, and it's going to finish securing everything in place. Remember, you don't want to tighten everything all the way. Not yet.
However, you won't have to wait until both front crossbars are in place before tightening the screws. You can tighten the screws on each front crossbar as they are being installed. The crossbars not only create stability for the structure, they are also designed to attach to the bars that will support the mattresses.
Once they're all hand tight for the piece, you can start tightening up with the tool.
Once the top front crossbar is installed and secured, double check all of the connections since the beginning of the assembly to ensure that all screws are tightened down and secure before moving on to the next step. In this step, we are installing the mattress supports. Each one is hooked on both ends, and are installed by inserting both ends into the larger end of the keyhole and then sliding them into the narrow end of the keyhole on the crossbars.
It's a pretty simplistic design. The rods are held in with little black plastic tabs that push into the larger end of the keyhole after you get the rod into place. We found that putting just a few rods in at a time gives us enough room to be able to install the tabs, and then we continue with a few more rods.
Last items are the two top rails. One goes on the back, right here, and one goes on the front. This is to keep all the little ones from falling out of bed and onto the ground at night. I don't know if it keeps them from doing that during the day, but at least it's a passive rail. It keeps them from passively rolling over at night, falling on the ground and hurting themselves. And we will get those taken care of. And of course, you start with the top screw first, because I would rather fight it until I get the first bolt in, not after I get the first bolt in. Then we go with the bottom bolt.
Even though most of the structure is complete and secure, you will still want to leave all bolts and screws hand tight until they are all installed in each component, for the sake of easier alignment.
Last bolt will be the one to get tightened up first, because of course we're already there. Then tighten the top one over here.
The front guard rail is as equally important as the rest of the components on the bed frame, in the safety and stability of the structure, as well as keeping the little ones from falling directly onto the ground or making contact with the bottom bunk.
That may seem a little dark, but as they're sleeping, they're usually unsupervised, and we want to try to keep them as safe as possible, even if we're not in their immediate area.
Now that the structure is complete, it's time for the final touches.
We would like to share a little known tip in a segment that we would like to call Things They Don't Tell You. Janice, will you do the honors?
Of course, Captain. Your Aunt Bunny used to be known as your Uncle Benny.
That's not what I meant, Janice.
This comes with the package. It's not necessarily an extra piece, although it does match the tops of the corners. What you'll want to do with this piece is use it to soften the little bar here underneath. That way it doesn't gouge your flooring.
The bunk bed assembly kit comes with an anti-toppling device. It is simply a strap with a hole on each end. Wrap each strap around the top sides of the bunk bed frame and bolt it into a wall stud or into the drywall, using the provided anchors.
Always keep your extra pieces. And I know if you've got several pieces of furniture that you assembled in your home, you probably have several packets of these, as far as not necessarily identical but similar. So you're going to go, what was this one for? What was this one for? What was this one for? Put it in a small quart, 1 quart Ziploc bag. Put a label on it and find a drawer that you can designate for just this kind of stuff. It will be a whole lot easier to deal with that way than it would be to try to match up the hardware to make any repairs.
Time to bring in the mattresses. Clear a path between the mattresses and the bed. Make sure to purchase the appropriate sizes for the frame. Mattress size information is included in the instructions. It would be advised that 2 people should move them. However, it can be done alone. Be sure that the mattress is covered in its plastic or in an old sheet. Keep it on its side while gripping the sheet in front of you and pull the mattress to the bed frame location. Depending on the sizes, you should be able to place them in their locations with relative ease.
And now it's time for our product review.
Product review initiated for Bunk Bed Assembly Kit YCTFGF001. This kit comes efficiently packed and well protected, which can minimize damage during shipping. Although the instructions provide very little text, they are clear and concise,
which makes assembly relatively easy with very little effort. You could tell that they've put quite a bit of thought into this, not just in the instructions, but with the bag of extras that's actually included that consists of the extra cap, extra screws, washers, and even the anti-toppling straps as a safety feature.
And with it being quite stable and structurally strong, it should last for several years of use. Overall, a well-designed product.
So we're going to give this kit 5 out of 5 stars.
If what you saw was helpful, intriguing, or entertaining, please like us, share with your friends, and subscribe to get the latest content. And leave a comment below to let us know how we're doing, or to tell us what you would like to see in the future. We have more on the way, so keep watching. Captain, I'm glad you're here. Let me show you what's going on. The previous crew decided to abort the mission. Now I need you to help me out.
Well, that's a dick move.
Miss Brown, what you meant to say was, we would be happy to help you in any way we can.
No, I definitely meant the first one.